Live from Kakariko Village. Broadcast throughout the Retroverse, transmitted to the real world via a maze of wires connecting a Super Nintendo to a Wii, to a Wi-Fi network, and finally to the Internet. The Techno Funk Boy presents the Retro Zoo Super Show. Now here are your hosts, Kai and Steven.
Okay, welcome everybody. This is the Retro Zoo Super Show. We're so glad that you joined us today. I'm really kind of excited about this episode. We had a few episodes ago started a series about one of my favorite games that I've just been itching to get into. And Steven was not here for the first part, and so he might be dazed and confused by this one. Steven, how's it going today?
I'm doing wonderful, but I'm always a little dazed and confused, so I don't know how that's going to change anything.
Well, that's probably true. So we are, as always, produced by Drum. Drum, how are you?
I am functioning normally.
That's really good.
So good.
So this is kind of this is like your repeat visit back. That didn't come out right. It's like 2 weeks in a row that you're here.
I'm just a guest for another week. We can leave it like that, because you never know when I'll be called away on some journey that'll bring me to a far-off land and with no internet connection, and we won't be in touch. It could happen anytime.
The bookstore?
The bookstore.
Right.
But you know, there's many books in the bookstore, and they all lead to different places.
I don't... Is that true? I thought that was a movie thing.
The never-ending story. La la
la la la la.
It's the never-ending story.
And this is why I sing for the band. So.
Vortex.
Oh goodness! For a little bit of background, we were actually talking about that right before the show. That the saddest moment of the '80s was featured in that film. And not to spoil it, but that's kind of what we do here. I mean, goodness, if you haven't watched or played the stuff we're talking about, you know, you really deserve to have it spoiled at this point, I think.
Yeah.
But
in fact, there's no such thing as, I think, as a spoiler after it's been out for a year. But you know what? I mean, come on! Like, I think people get pretty sacred about spoilers, and I feel like if you're on the internet or you're on social media or you're walking around town, and somebody spoils something for you, you know what? Tough beans. Life is a spoiler. So,
it's like, okay, and I know that spoilers annoyed people, even many years ago, but the term itself is like gained just universal acceptance. But I don't think I heard it 10 years ago at all.
No, because stuff got spoiled and you were okay about it, because that's just what happens. That's how you find out about something. In fact, a lot of times that's why you'll actually go see something because it got spoiled and you're like, oh, that sounds really cool. that spoiler was awesome. Let me go check it out for myself.
I
This
don't
whole thing
remember
of, like-
quite having that attitude, but
Well, we didn't call it spoilers, so we might have just been like, oh man, I heard the guy told me the ending to this movie or whatever, and like it sounded crazy. So like we didn't even say spoiler. Yeah, because I don't remember spoiler before Facebook. And I feel like it's like this entitlement thing, this right to not know. And just like, you know what? Who gave you the right to not know? I can say whatever I want to say. It's free speech. It's a free country. Or a free Super Nintendo. I can say whatever I want to. And if you don't like it, or if you hadn't heard it, I spoiled something for you. As long as I wasn't doing it out of malice, then I don't have to feel bad.
that's right. That's right. So in a never-ending story, the horse dies.
What? Dude, I hadn't actually watched the whole thing. I just got to the Artex part. It was so sad. I had to like turn it off because I hoped the horse would live. And
No, Croaks.
okay, well, I was wondering. I mean, that was just the character Croaks. The actual horse wasn't harmed. In the
Probably not. No.
But I was thinking about that while we were talking, and I was thinking, they always do these things like, where are they now? And
You want
Where's
one for
that
the horse?
yeah, where is that horse now?
I cannot
Where-
imagine that the horse is still alive. How long do horses live?
They live like 50 years, I think, or 25 years.
Okay, there's a big difference between 50 and 20. Like, it's been more than 25 years since that movie.
Well, that might have been a young buck, a young stallion. It might have only been a couple years old.
All right, we're going to turn to the answer of all things.
Where is Artex now?
which is Google.
Sorry, choked on some.
Drum, can you do something about that?
Heimlich maneuver commencing.
Okay, I had a peanut M&M lodge. Thanks, Drum.
Where did you get the peanut and M&Ms?
Oh man, you know what? I've smuggled all sorts of contraband back from the human realm. I got a sharing size too.
Are you sharing?
No. Sharing size means I gotta share with myself.
Okay, all right. This is from 2014. Where is the cast of the Neverending Story now? We don't care. We don't care about Atreyu and Bastian, and the childlike Empress. Where is Artax?
For some reason, that really cracked me up, dude.
Heimlich maneuver commencing.
Trump, I think he's fine.
Stop it, Drum. I don't need it. I'm not choking. I'm just laughing with joy. Choking kind of laugh. So does it say where Artex is? I mean, did it get turned into the glue factory?
Wow. Wow.
Man, dude, if they turned Artex into glue, that would be some, like, you could sell that on eBay for like a ton of money if you could identify Artex somehow through DNA sampling. I might do that. That might be my, like, the rest of my life. I'm prepared to give it over to sampling every glue, a DNA sample, to try to find Artex. And then once I come across the tube that has Artex's DNA,
Wow.
I will sell it on eBay and I will retire. Because some super rich nerd like Jeff Bezos would probably buy it for like $2.5 million.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, I'm not learning a lot. Google is not helping me. You'd think that somebody would have researched this earlier.
No, this is why we need another internet. Because the internet we have now is too limited. It's just like stuff that normal people think about. And you can only ask questions that normal people would ask.
Well, how has this not been asked? I mean, goodness.
Because
we're obsessed with everything else.
People are shallow. Yeah, they're thinking about, they want to know where Atreyu is. Like, it's like probably mostly, I don't know, people who wanted to be Atreyu or girls that had a crush on Atreyu when they were young. I mean, they want to know where he is. They want to know where Bastion is, or Sebastian, or whatever his name was. They want to know where the Luck Dragon is. I mean, it's kind of like all that stuff's simple, man. Like, where's Artex? He was the one who died. I guess he did come back though. So maybe that's where he is. Maybe he's still riding with Atreyu. Or is he for Atreyu? I don't know.
Oh goodness. Okay. Well.
Okay. Sorry.
So Earthbound. No. What have you been up to, man?
Oh no, dude. Obviously, I've been. I don't know. Probably too deep in my own brain. Just sitting around. You know.
Chewing for the microphone.
Chewing through the microphone. Yeah. Well, you know. Honestly, I've just been waiting for the next time for you to ask me to come back on the show.
That's like every week.
Well, ever since last week, I was wondering if he was like, was that kind of like a one-off? Like, is he just going to ask me one time to kind of like slowly phase me out? You know, I can't just totally be cut off. It has to be like a slow phase.
You totally cut yourself off. You've been gone for like 5 years.
5 years and like gerbil years.
Well, I mean, you know, time moves differently here in the Retroverse.
That's true. No, I'm glad to be back, man. You know, I've been taking a little hiatus from all the action in the bookstore, and I've been basically just, you know, running around outside, catching butterflies when I can, adding them to my collection. Have you ever seen my butterfly collection?
No.
I take their wings off and I just the abdomens. So there's no wings. It's just a bunch of little caterpillar-looking things. But I'll bring it over next time.
Something happened to you at the bookstore. I'm pretty certain of it.
Okay. I think that's going to be for another episode because I don't think I can talk about it right now.
And that's probably good because I wanted to talk about me a little bit. So,
okay, how are you doing? Tell me about you.
Well, you remember last week when I said that, you know, I started streaming on Twitch?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that awesome.
That has not continued at all.
Yeah.
It has been the most absolute crazy. Are you done with your food?
Okay.
Did you get like the most crinkly plastic available?
I've got
It's like I'm telling a story and all I hear is
Look, imagine it this way. Pretend like I'm so interested, I'm like eating popcorn out of a container, like listening to what you're saying. It's kind of like when you start talking, I get like really interested, but when I get interested, I want to eat. Kind of like augment my interest with even more interest. It's kind of like interest squared. So anyway.
Oh gosh. Okay.
You were saying you didn't stream anymore, and that's wrong.
Well, I mean, no, it's true. It's not. I mean, it's not ideal.
True.
It's not for lack of desire, and it's not a lack of having had a lot of fun doing it, which I did. And you know, my first run. And I was playing, you know, as we talked about last time, you know, Final Fantasy IV, just a short Paladin run, just to kind of get my feet wet, because I certainly don't have time for a 4-hour stream right now. But the run was just an absolute disaster, and I thought I was providing some really okay. So this is, and I was holding off from telling this story, but it is a funny story. So I logged in and I did the thing, and I'm starting the game, and on one screen I pull up the chat just in case I didn't expect anybody to really jump in. It's my first stream. I didn't know what I was doing. I actually didn't even title it until I was like 45 minutes into it because I didn't know how. And then I figured it out, so I did that. But like right after I got all set up and logged in, I noticed there was one person watching me. And I was like, oh wow.
Kind of eerie.
Yeah, this is cool, and I was like, okay, this, it's been a little while. No one said anything in chat, so this person's definitely a lurker, and that's fine. I very often watch Twitch on my television instead of my computer, and so chatting is very difficult sometimes for me. But still, I still enjoy it, and so I'm moving along, and I'm providing some really interesting commentary on this game. Now, I found out later that my mic was not properly balanced. You could barely understand a word I was saying, but like the whole time, this guy is sitting there, and I'm like, dang, he's watching this. No one else has come in, but he's sitting there. He's watching this.
He's watching you.
Yeah, and that's like, it was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And so that kind of really inspired me. And I was doing a lot of commentary, and even though it was a bad run, like I'd forgotten a few things. I made some mistakes. And some of just the RNG was not going my way. I mean, I was not manipulating the seed, and the seed I got was ridiculously bad. I mean, I was getting battles in the worst spots. But I was pushing forward, and I was keeping the conversation going, and I was doing some good commentary, and the dude was
doing tricks for your viewer.
Well, I mean, just the normal glitches, like the glitch that we talked about.
Do flips and stuff.
Well, you can't see me. There's just a picture of me there. I don't have a camera yet.
Okay, you need to change that, but go on.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'll definitely do flips. And so I'm like 45 minutes into this run, and the run ended up taking me an hour, 18 minutes. And my personal best is not a very good personal best, but my personal best is an hour 8. And so I was 10 whole minutes off my personal best. It was ridiculously bad.
Yeah,
but
that's terrible.
I'm like 45 minutes into this run, and I realize that one person watching, that's me, when I logged into the chat.
So you were like all excited, inspired, and like trying to talk to this person. You're talking to yourself.
Yeah, totally. and so I was like, okay. And I realized it, and I'm like, that's not a problem. That's not a problem, because I'm recording this, and the commentary's good. And even though the run is not good, I'll still probably throw it up on YouTube as just like, hey, this is Kai's first run on Twitch, and so, no, it wasn't very good, but, the commentary was good. I had a ton of fun doing it. And so I was like, okay, no, I'll just keep going. This is cool. And I kept the commentary up, and I kept going, and I was very satisfied with it. And then I opened it up, and I realized, now what are you drinking?
Something.
I
just finished it. That's
is that Drum's tea?
It's specialty.
Gosh. So, anyways, I mean, and so then I opened it up after I was done, and I was really happy, and I turned it on, and my mic is so low you can barely hear a word I said, and I was like, well, shoot, and so I deleted it, and despite all that, though, I had such a good time, and I have fixed the volume problem on that mic. I'm still working on the sound quality problem, but it's gonna be fine for the time being. And I had so much fun, even doing a bad run, that I definitely wanted to get back into it. But yeah, time this week has just been eaten up, and We're still trying to finish the EP that's coming out very soon, and we're getting a couple of other projects off the ground, and so I mean that was as good of a time as any to talk about the Patreon page.
Patreon.
We talked. You're just setting me up to explain it. I'm sorry, I didn't pick up on that.
Actually, I think you might have had that conversation with online.
We had a pre-show meeting. You remember the music we were listening to?
You remember I had to use the bathroom and then go get a snack? You probably had the meeting while I was out of the room, and you talked about Patron.
Not Patron. That's
well, whenever I hear
that's
Patreon
what's in the special
written,
call it tea. Oh.
Patron. I just like calling it Patron. I'm gonna call it Patron.
Okay. Yeah. You do. Anyway. So, we have started a Patreon page, and so we do encourage you that if you are enjoying the show and you want to help us with the cost and everything of getting the show up and running, we please head over to patreon.com/technofunkboy and take a look there.
I think we should just say real quick, what will the Patron what is it going to fund? I mean, and I want to tell our, one of our biggest expenses. I want to tell our listeners, one of the biggest expenses we have is charging drum at the end of the night.
He takes a lot. He takes a lot of power.
A lot. He's not energy efficient. Sorry,
right.
Drum.
Well, I mean, just the fact that we got electricity into Kakariko Village was a feat in and of itself. And besides that, the hosting costs, we are trying to upgrade the equipment a little bit, but there's not enormous cost involved in the show, but there are some definite costs involved in the show. And so we really like doing this. We want to keep doing this. We plan to keep doing this, and we'd very much like your help if you are enjoying the show, getting some value out of the hour each week that you spend with us, listening to some good game music, talking about some old nostalgic games, and just having some fun with us, which I think is an important thing for us all to do during the week. And so we're happy to be there with you to help you do that. And so please do take a look at that. So what are we going to do on our Patreon page? Because we do have some stuff planned for us. So right away, what we're going to be working on is our quarterly jam shows. And if you have not heard one of these, every quarter we do a seasonal jam where we take a theme and just play a lot of game music that fits the theme and discuss it a little bit and its importance. And those are always fun episodes, but we are going to move those into Patreon as a Patreon exclusive. And so you will be getting future episodes of that there. We will continue this show on a weekly basis without fail, hopefully, unless we fail, I mean,
which is very possible. It could happen anytime. That's why you should get on board now and do everything you can to support it so it doesn't fail.
Well, to be fair, we do have one very reliable host and one very reliable producer.
And one very reliable drinker.
There's more. We have more than that. But anyways.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, so, goodness. Now I've lost my train of thought. No, we will be continuing. Look, if you're not in a position to support us right now, that's not a problem. You're still going to get a weekly episode every Friday morning from us. We are committed to keep this up. We have a blast doing so, and so we definitely want to. But if you are interested in helping support the show, please head over to patreon.com/technofunkboy. That is not, as we release music, we're going to do some pre-release some tracks, for our Patreon, supporters, as well as hopefully do some exclusive stuff. Besides the jam shows, we do plan to do some other fun shows for our Patreon page. And so we do want you to get involved in that. There's a couple of different tiers set up. I think we'll expand that as we go, but for I forgot what the lowest tier is. It's either $2 or $3. $2 or $3 a month is the lowest.
Tier, it should be like if it's a lady that does it, she should be able to go like on a chat with me. Can we set that up? Like she can just do a chat session with me.
What would that be worth per month?
Like $100.
$100? Are you going to be charming?
I'm not cheap. Yeah, I'm going to be super charming for $100. And it'll be like really sincere. It won't be like you're buying me to chat with. It'll be like,
well, for extra, you could put in specific things that you want Steven to compliment.
Yeah. You know what? I'll be your puppet.
Well, we'll work on that. Yeah, for sure. Oh goodness.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I mean, just they have to call me Beaker because that's my favorite Muppet. That's the only stipulation I'm going to have on that.
That's awesome. Oh gosh. Oh, so now that the show is almost over, let's talk about some Earthbound.
Yeah, dude. No, I was excited about it. I prepared for it. I listened to some Earthbound music. I watched some gameplay, and
yeah. So now you've not played Earthbound, right?
I have not. So I'm going to depend heavily on you to basically tell me everything about it.
Well, oh goodness, we're not gonna talk about everything. So if you haven't caught the first episode we did about Earthbound music, what we're doing is the soundtrack in particular is so deep and so diverse that it's not something that we can tackle even the soundtrack in a single show. So the soundtrack has 170 tracks to it.
My goodness.
And they actually had to put in a larger amount of memory into the Earthbound cartridge than normal, because the normal size chip that they used would have been completely filled with music by itself. That's just how much they put into this. And it was an exceedingly innovative soundtrack. It's a very unique soundtrack. There's not really anything like it, on the Super Nintendo, or really much like it in video game history. It was just an amazing work, and it fit the game very well. And so we don't want to tackle like the entire soundtrack in a single episode, but I want to take a look at things that I find interesting about the soundtracks, a little bit here and a little bit there. And so to start it off, and I think before the break, I'm going to explain what these songs are. And then we're going to get into how they fit together and what they mean to the plot.
So, what are the songs?
So these are the 8 My Sanctuary tunes.
So
and
I only found one My Sanctuary.
You might have found the combined one.
Yeah, I think I found like a long play, like extended play. It was like 30 minutes.
Right. Oh, good night. Yeah, you didn't just find the combined one. You found it combined many times over, because the actual full song is very, very short. The individual songs, the 8 pieces to this puzzle, are each about 1 measure long, but they each have some like beginning noise and ending noise to them that it kind of extends it. But like each bit is on the soundtrack 11 seconds long. And so combined, the song ends up being 8 measures, of melody. But to understand what they're doing with this song, what the composers are doing with this song, you kind of have to understand the theme of Earthbound. And Earthbound is a JRPG, but it's a science fiction RPG and not a fantasy one. And so you're not dealing with swords and sorcery. You're dealing with spaceships and psychic powers. And so there's a lot of aliens, there's a lot of, extraterrestrial intervention into humanity and that sort of thing. But the main theme is that the influence of the villain of the game has kind of twisted the world and taken what is good and right and beautiful and turned it wicked and ugly.
Like like shaving a cat?
Sure.
Okay, I just think cats are beautiful and right and everything, and but if you
okay.
shave them, they look like little old people.
Kind of like that. And so,
Okay.
so one thing that's interesting is, are you putting in a cassette tape now?
I'm slowly trying to ease out a peanut M&M, but you caught me, so now I have to stop. Okay, there it is out.
Oh,
Okay, I'm putting it
gosh.
down. So sorry. Popping it in my mouth.
Oh gosh. So,
Sorry. Hungry.
So the theme of the game is that the this evil influence is twisting the world to just this kind of evil darkness, and so everything looks like it should, but there's just this streak of evil to it. And so one of the things that's interesting about the game is you don't actually, when you fight something, you don't kill it, you tame it. And so it's like you bonk it over the head and it remembers what it should be doing. And so this can happen with animals. It can also happen with people. And so you don't kill any of the bad guys in it. You actually reform them by beating them, which is a great premise of a game. But,
that's actually really, really interesting. I like it.
Yeah. And so at the end of the game, it's pretty cool because once you beat the game, you can go anywhere in the game at this point and talk to everyone you talked to before. And so you actually run into like the evil bosses that you fought before, and they've reformed their lives. And now they're doing productive work. And it's very cool. But this is kind of the overarching theme that Earthbound is trying to present to us. And so one of the things that comes out of it is this music. And you are told, and it's, look, this is an RPG cliche of, okay, now you're going to go fight the bad guy, but to fight the bad guy, you got to get, 6 things. And the things are going to help you fight the bad guy. And so you have to go find the 6 things. And so, in Final Fantasy, it's the 4 crystals, and that's going to help you fight the bad guy. Or, it's the, 10 magic points in the world, or in, Simon's Quest, it's, the 5 pieces of Dracula. And so it's just a way to extend the game. It's the things that you have to get. And Earthbound is doing the same thing, but they're actually making it kind of interesting because the things you're getting are these pieces of melody. And you find these pieces of melody in the My Sanctuary spots. And they're normally kind of off the beaten path, and you find them at some nature scene. And you go in, and there's this constant tone in the game that you're going to hear in the music. This constant tone that is kind of representing the alien technology. It's kind of a harsh sound, and it's just a sustained chord throughout that kind of weighs, kind of like what we would expect in an old fashioned science fiction stuff, like, like original series Star Trek and stuff. Just this hum in the background. But then you get this like disjointed piece of melody, and it doesn't make any sense. And so why don't right here, let's play the first, the first My Sanctuary piece that you get, which is Giant Step. All right. So what you heard there is the beginning of a melody, but it doesn't go anywhere, right? It's just,
right.
It's basically one measure of something. And so there's no context, and it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And so that that's the kind of thing you're collecting, and eventually you get the whole piece. And it plays in sequence. And all of a sudden, it makes total sense. And it's actually one of the most straightforward actual pretty melodies in the game, because a lot of the game is just intentional noise and sound, but without a lot of just like, actual not a lot of memorable melodies. But this is one of those places that has that kind of melody. And so what I think we should do is take our break. And when we come back from the break, we're going to play the whole piece combined in sequence.
Sounds excellent. I'm excited. Can I eat the rest of my peanut M&Ms during the break?
Please do.
Okay.
Hey Drum, did you know that the Techno Funk Boy isn't just a group of podcast hosts that live inside a Super Nintendo?
Really?
That's right, we're also a band.
Tell me more.
We're a retro gaming inspired band that plays covers of classic video game themes, original game music, and other music in the style of classic games.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and you can find our first full-length album on iTunes, Amazon, and CD Baby. It's called the Final Fantasy Mixes, and it's an EDM tribute to some of Uematsu's best musical themes. Check the episode notes for links or go to Techno Funk Boy to learn more.
Techno Funk Boy sounds like the greatest band that has ever existed.
I programmed him to say that.
He comes in the night, seemingly out of nowhere, a blur of yellow whose only mission is justice. His name is already legend, but the reality doesn't quite line up with the myth, and we're about to find out exactly how wrong we've been about him. He is the Yellow Canary. The Yellow Canary is a comedic thriller by Paul Lytle about a would-be superhero who may just be crazy enough to make a difference. The Yellow Canary by Paul Lytle, available from Amazon in print and on Kindle. Check for the link in the show notes.
I'm back.
Okay, so that's actually the whole piece. Now, Stephen, this is something that I figured out in my research that I haven't found from anybody else.
Okay.
So we're breaking this right here and right now.
This is like a world premiere.
This is like a world premiere because everybody knows that if you put these pieces in sequence, they make a melody. The game tells you that much.
Right.
But what you don't know is that if you stack these pieces on top of each other, they actually fit together that way too.
Whoa. So they've always been seen in a horizontal sense, but now they're going to be seen in a vertical sense.
Exactly.
So you actually made a three-dimensional space. If you played the horizontal way and the vertical way together, we could actually hear what this looks like. This piece of music looks like in the third dimension.
Yeah. I think, yes.
Okay. You know what? I think you were actually going to say something really cool, and I made it weird and not as cool. So go ahead and stack those pieces.
All right, we're going to stack all 8 pieces on top of each other rather than in sequence.
I'm nervous.
Take a listen to this.
What if it blows my mind?
It probably will.
Oh.
yeah. So yeah, I was totally making that up. So what's really
I was
crazy?
ready to be blown
I know,
away.
but what's really funny about that is it like the first three notes, it really sounds like it's gonna work.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. My mind is about to be blown.
And so I thought about this idea. I'm like, wonder if anybody's ever done this. And I looked and I couldn't find anybody. I didn't look very, very long. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I set it up and I hit play, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, this is actually pretty. Oh, this is going to work. Oh no, it's not pretty anymore. Oh gosh.
It's kind of like in Raiders of the Lost Ark when like the spirits are flying around after the guy opens up the ark, and he's like, "It's so beautiful."
Oh right, yes.
And then it turns into a skeleton, and his face melts.
Yes, that's exactly what's going on with that. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All right. No, I had to play that for you because I went to so much trouble doing it, and so. All right, so
awesome.
I want to talk about this song for a little bit because I think what they're doing here is really, really cool. So I'm going to play my keyboard for a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, you're a good keyboardist. Even though that's my job, I believe.
That's one of your jobs. Well, it's actually one of my jobs. It's because you don't know what I'm going to play.
All right, just go. Here's my keyboard. Take it.
All right, so here's
your way with it.
This is my keyboard. Anyway. All right, so here we go. So the tone, that sci-fi tone that you're hearing in there, it's actually two separate notes. First there's a B, and then there's a D. Okay, now these two chords playing together, they actually fit fairly nicely together, because they're D is actually a minor third away from B, and so they would fit in the minor in the B minor chord together, and because there's no bass note in this segment, the kind of implied bass here is the lowest note, which is that B, and so your brain is actually filling in the whole chord as a B, but the song is not in B. The song is actually in G, and so they kind of get your brain going in this direction for a little bit. They're tricking your brain. They're lying to absolutely. But then when the melody comes in, all of a sudden your brain, fills in. It's like, wait a minute, no, we're actually in that chord, which is a major chord, which doesn't have quite as much of a dark or mysterious tone to it as like a B minor chord would have. And so what they're doing is they're actually causing you with these two notes to kind of think of this alien technology, this sci-fi element as something mysterious, as something dark,
mercurial.
Thank you.
Sorry.
But out of it, they actually shift the chord down to a G into a major chord, which is going to sound much more settled and much more bright to us. And what's really cool about this is the theme of the game. Is that you, as the main character of this game, you are taking all these things that have been twisted up and have been distorted by this kind of alien evil, and you're setting it right again. And so you have this sustained tone in this song that is dark and mysterious and kind of tense, and all of a sudden bringing something that's much more at home and much more lovely and much more warm out of it, without actually changing what those two notes are doing. You're just adding to it. And I think it's a really cool approach. I think that throughout the soundtrack, you just repeatedly find that the three composers on the game had the story in mind when they were composing, and they were pushing the story forward, and they were taking these themes from the story and pushing it into their music, and they were very willing to make just pure distortion and noise in the soundtrack when it needed it, when it was trying to drive the mood. But they were also very willing to draw out these moments of warmth and moments of beauty when needed, to remind you, the player, of what you're doing there. And that's exactly what's going on in this song. It's taking beauty and warmth out of the more dark, foreboding tone that's going on in the background, and starting to dominate that tone by overcoming it with the beauty of the melody.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, and this is a one-off. I mean, I don't know. But when you listen to the bagpipe music, there's the drone.
Yeah, that's really good comparison.
And then it's like, but the whole time the thing is like in the background. It's kind of an ugly, gross sound.
Yeah.
But when you hear it with the melody, and since it's basically playing the, kind of the spine of the music, or like the whatever, or the root, it's just it sounds awesome,
Right.
And bagpipes are kind of a weird instrument, because I don't know of any other instrument that has a drone that just plays this one note. That's kind of sounds cruddy by itself, but then and,
that's that's a really great comparison. I hadn't thought about that, but that's perfect. Yeah, because that drone note is just not very pretty by itself, but when you put it with the whole of what the bagpipe is doing, it's actually quite lovely. And this is kind of like the sci-fi electronica version of exactly what the bagpipe is doing.
Yeah, when I first listened to it, I thought about that. I was like, that's just the same note. But then I was like, what other kind of music or instrument does that? And the bagpipe came to mind. But the thing about it is, I think that one of the attractive things about that just steady drone kind of sound is that it kind of gives some power to it. Like when you hear a bunch of bagpipes going off, like in a marching band or something like that, like a bagpipe band, it's got some power. It's like, you're like, whoa. And then the music comes in, and it's just like, I don't know, it just adds to the depth of what you're listening to. It adds like another dimension, kind of like that's a little bit deeper than what you would hear if it was just melody, and it's unique. And so maybe these guys had some Scottish roots or something.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Yeah, these Japanese.
All three Japanese composers there.
I think some Scottish people went over to Japan.
Yeah, oh goodness, let me hold on. I gotta look up.
Scottish influence on Japanese music. Google. See, Google. That's why we got to come up with another internet. Google's gonna be like, what? What are you talking about? Where's our text now?
I have to say, and I don't know that these three guys were necessarily influenced by like Scottish music, but I know like Uematsu did have quite a bit of like I think Scottish and Irish influences.
Really?
But I'm not going to put that on Hip Tanaka and I'm bad about pronouncing this guy's name, but Kaiichi Suzuki.
Oh, yeah,
the two main
perfect.
guys. Yeah, sure.
You nailed it, dude. That's exactly how they actually say their names.
You don't even know who these people are.
I think you just have to grunt more when you say it. Kaiichi, Milwaukee.
Okay, we eventually want to interview these people.
Well, we'll tell them, hello, Kaiichi, Milwaukee. And they'll be like,
Just
Hi,
Hip Tanaka, if you are out there listening, if you do an interview with us, I will be the one interviewing you, not
Hip Tanaka.
Steven.
Hit the knocker. See, they'll respect me, though, because I'm speaking like them, all grunty and forceful. That's how Japanese talk, dude. Like, in Japanese movies and stuff, like, they talk like that. Like, oh, yeah, oh. Like, if you say, like, Honda or Toyota, you can say, Honda, Toyota. If you say it like that, it sounds more authentic. You can just totally delete anything I'm saying.
This is a live show.
I know from your mind. Just delete it from your mind. I feel silly. I feel like a rotten butternut squash.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't either.
Oh,
But,
goodness.
No, dude, I didn't know Uematsu had those kind of influences. So that's pretty. I learned something new today.
Yeah, Uematsu was, these guys, they were like, the composers, and I'm pretty sure Hip Tanaka had some like prog rock influences, to him. And I know he had definitely some electronica influences, but a lot of these guys that were composing back then, they were really into prog rock and stuff like that, which makes sense because it's like, especially like in the Nintendo days when you had like 4 channels, and how do you make interesting music with 4 sounds? And so they turned to these prog rock bands that, like these trios and quartets, and they studied as like, how do these 4 people make interesting music, that really has a full sound and, and it has a lot of power behind it, because the other obvious influence to game music is symphonies and orchestral music and stuff. But in that case, you have like 100 people making a sound. And when you're working on the Nintendo, you don't have 100 sounds to work with. You have 4. And you've got to make it work with 4. And
Right.
so, and by the way, one of those is the drums. And so, where do you turn to learn that? And
Nirvana.
Nirvana, yeah, but I mean, so much in Nirvana is the tone of the guitar. But
Yeah.
if you turn to like bands like Rush, then it's what all are these instruments doing? And you can see how the bass is moving, not in time with the guitar, but complementing the guitar.
Right.
And so they, they were listening to a lot of that prog rock stuff, and, as well as that. And I know in particular Uematsu just started, drawing influences from wherever he could. And the kind of Celtic music, really appealed to him, is very fitting for a lot of the Final Fantasy games. So you can hear the Celtic influence as well in Final Fantasy, as well as as prog rock, as well as Wagnerian opera. All these things had a huge influence on him. But you turned to someone like a Hip Tanaka, and before Earthbound, his big game was Metroid. And so I thought I heard Metroid when I was listening to some of the music. Yeah.
At least like that sci-fi kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what he was drawing from like movies like Alien and stuff, where, a lot of the sci-fi soundtrack was just background noise, the noise of the spaceship,
Right.
of stuff like that. And
the reactor.
right.
Yeah.
he's pulling from that and the very sci-fi elements from like, from like, early sci-fi into the 70s sci-fi, even the early 80s sci-fi. And he's drawing from that and got him into electronica music. And you hear it all over Earthbound. That's why he's perfect for this sound, sci-fi, RPG soundtrack, because he can put that stuff in there, like the reactor noises and just, different spacey sounds and stuff.
I always think, when I think of reactor noises, I always think of like Star Trek, TNG.
Yeah.
Like when it's like the warp core is like, whoa, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa,
yeah,
or
yeah,
something like that. Like, I always like that noise to me was very comforting. It made me think of home.
I mean, really all of the Star Trek shows had always that hum in the background.
Mm-hmm.
The hum of the ship. And it was, it was a great sound effect and very important, sound effect. And it kept reminding you of where they were, but at the same time, it was kind of this comforting white noise that was very cool. I
wonder if like Picard would at night would fluff up his pillow and hearing that sound and kind of snuggle up to it, just be like, and hear whoa 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 whoa, and just hear the warp, the warp core just going, and it kind of put him to sleep every night. I think about this kind of thing.
You think a lot about Picard's sleeping habits?
Well, he gets so he's all warm. He's warmed by the fact that the warp core is doing its job, keeping the Enterprise floating through space. No, I definitely like the that drone sound, and I think it actually, I mean, it is a tool used in electronic music quite a bit, mm-hmm. And but it's funny, and I actually never, until I said it just now, I never made the connection with Scottish music, and I'm gonna have to listen to that. I mean, kind of do my own little research because I mean it's completely different kind of music. I mean the drone of a bagpipe is so much different than what you would hear in a drone in an electronic song, but I think it's accomplishing the same effect, and that is it provides kind of this consistency that, I don't know, makes it easier to listen to in a sense. And although I have to say the Earthbound drone, it's a little abrasive. My Sanctuary, it's kind of and it's like what you were saying.
And it's meant to be, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was meant to be this is not, this is an alien force,
Right. And they're the bad guys. I mean, this force is the bad guy. And so, it's not like the Enterprise where, the Enterprise wants a warm, comforting drone sound to it. But these aliens being the villains is it's meant to be a little bit it's meant to be abrasive. It's meant to be, just disconcerting. It makes you uneasy. Throughout the game, and you hear this kind of sound constantly throughout the game. And it's interesting the way the sound works in the games. But we're gonna get more onto that because we have a lot more to talk about the soundtrack. There's so much to discuss about the soundtrack. It really is just this masterful work of art.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing from what I've heard, at least.
Yeah. So we're going to, in future episodes, we're going to tackle the Runaway Five, which is a not very subtle ripoff of the Blues Brothers. And their music sounds exactly like the Blues Brothers. It's great. We're going to talk about the use of sound effect in the songs themselves, which is really cool. And we're going to talk about the famous part about Earthbound soundtracks, which is the sampling. the possibly very illegal sampling, but is just fascinating what they do with the sampling in the game. And so those are all coming up. But we are nearing the end of our program today. And so we're going to put some links to more about Earthbound music, including the My Sanctuary tracks, in our show notes, which will be at technofunkboy.com/28. That's the number 28 for episode 28. Please do sign up for our newsletter there. We are going to have some announcements about the upcoming music through our newsletter. Please do also remember our Patreon account and
Patron.
the Patron. Please remember Patron. For those of you who do come back every week, we really do appreciate you. We know that you're here each and every week, and we just thank you for being here. Please do this week share this episode with a friend,
at least one friend.
At least one friend, and we'll be back next week. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you then.
All right, bye guys.
The Retro Zoo Super Show is brought to you by the Techno Funk Boy. Follow us on Twitter at Techno Funk Boy, on Facebook at the Techno Funk Boy, and sign up for our email list at technofunkboy.com. Also look for us on Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon for music. If you are so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast catcher. If you are not so inclined, you are obviously some sort of villain trying to conquer the world. Unowned music and gameplay clips are used for educational and critical purposes. Thank you for listening. Keep gaming. And once you have responsibilities that need to be done at this time, then you can game later.